Hello everyone, this is Fabio Meira. I'm a translator and language consultant, and I'm translating the audio by Paulo Cassiano. Good morning everyone, this is Paulo Cassiano. I'm speaking from the state of Rio de Janeiro, and I'm talking about the awakening of consciousness, okay? The greatest goal of mankind is to awaken consciousness. And you just awaken when you devote to the studies with discipline, and it's key to have focus. You can't lose focus, and you can't get discouraged. There are many ways to awaken consciousness, like the exercises we suggest to the groups that help and support awaken the consciousness. You need to devote so you can awaken your consciousness, and you need to work hard on it, have determination. We human beings live asleep, and we ignore this state of deep sleep that many people do not understand what it means. However, if we're talking about awakened consciousness, we need to first define consciousness. And most people have a wrong idea of what it means to be conscious. No one would ignore a boxer when in a fight and is knocked out on the ring. He loses his senses, and when he is back at his senses, he is conscious again. But we need to understand the difference between personality and consciousness, between ego and consciousness. When we are born, we have some 3% of consciousness and 90% which are split between subconsciousness and unconsciousness. So we can increase this 3% of consciousness by working consciousness, but we cannot add consciousness by mechanical or physical procedures. And to better understand that, we need to understand the several kinds of energies within us: mechanical, vital, psychic, mental, will, consciousness, and pure spirit energy. There are seven kinds of energy. No matter how many times we multiply the physical energy, we cannot awaken consciousness. Or increment vital forces, we cannot awaken consciousness. Many psychological processes are run within us, and that's why awakening comes from within us. For that, you need to intervene in consciousness. How do you intervene? By studying, dedicating with focus and clarity on what you want. No matter how much you discipline yourself to do, or your mind, it will never awaken your consciousness by itself. Even if you multiply the willpower by the infinite, it wouldn't awaken your consciousness. We can only awaken consciousness by focused and attentive work on consciousness. That's why we need to start our search for self-awareness right now. Our challenges, our insecurities, our blocks, limiting beliefs. What is disturbing or sabotaging your life, putting you into procrastination and living an unconscious life? And you just awaken when you leave this field, when you leave matrix and take the matrix from within you and start to be just an observer of the matrix. So you cannot postpone for tomorrow what you can do today regarding awakening consciousness, because the inner work needs to die from time to time, every moment. So you need to do this work so that you can die the old way, and the awakening needs to happen today. You cannot postpone it. Dying every day means killing the old way of being, old way of thinking. You need to change the way you are, and then you be in sync with the universe. Then you have this synchronicities, and then you can start in synchrony with the universe and collapse the wave function. Do you remember the list exercises? By September 21st, it's the deadline to have these wishes accomplished, and you see that some 80% of the people will have collapsed their lists. So be always alert to the most distinct situations, psychological or problematic situations that may arise within you. And for that, you need to practice the teachings we provide you so that you can always call it our consciousness. And this flame within you needs to keep on. And this awakening can happen two ways, subjectively and objectively. Subjectively is when we start to do the first practices of unfolding, the mantras, concentration, meditation. These experiences, extrasensorial experiences, they will give you strength so you can follow your path. However, it will not awaken you completely, but will lead you to awaken, and which is gradual along the way. There are some moments of consciousness we experiment in the astral, when we visit a temple. When we wake up in the morning, we are still asleep, connected to the daily things with the choices of the ego. So the subjective awaken, it strengthens us so that we can perceive the internal work and feed all the good within us. However, in this method, there isn't a continuous awakening. We need to keep focusing on the mantras, and even when we awaken the astral, we fall asleep again. To awaken, you need to be conscious of who you are and what your limitations are. And that's the beginning of the expanding consciousness. Until you get to the state of awakening, it takes discipline, dedication. Nature doesn't give leaps. I started the work today, and within 3 days I will be awakened. That's not going to happen, because there are many internal processes, many situations of conflicting relationships, financial situations that have been blocked, the projects you have tried that didn't work, all the things around your magnetic field. If your magnetic field is in sync with the universe, you're going to have an attracting situation just when you are in tune with the universe. And the more you are conscious, the more you are going to materialize things, the faster you're going to materialize things. So what's the element that we need to eradicate so that we can bar the problems and keep them away from us? It's consciousness. When you awaken your consciousness, all the problems are gone, financial problems. And that's why you need to focus on awakening your consciousness, because that's what is going to make the difference in your life. And what we do in the groups is just to help people awaken their consciousness. First steps are taken from this expansion, self-knowledge, quantum physics, mechanical physics are just backgrounds to explain the way the atom behaves, because it is in our thoughts, the electrical currents that we send out through our thoughts, because we are a biological, energetic body. So we need to kill the ego and keep ego from guiding us to situations who are not real or are illusions. We need to take advantage of the impulses of our experience to awaken our consciousness and bring consciousness to our everyday, to the things we do, to the guard, like a guard in the war times. We need to self-observe and eliminate details that come up all the time and take consciousness to everything we do. So for those who think that the consciousness is going to awake in a room at night or before a master and is wrong states, these things will just happen. The objective consciousness will just happen when you start to have discipline and kill the ego. So this is something that happens gradually on a daily basis at our work with friends. It's the best psychological state that we can have. The objective awakening comes with objectivity, purposes. When we fall asleep and do not identify with our astral figures, you need to put your ego aside and focus on the things of consciousness. And you see that everything is going to change. If you change, if you awaken the consciousness, everyone around you is going to awake too. That's it, my brothers. Have a good day.